Hello, amazing potential entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 197, which means that all the show notes and relevant links can be found at tashcorbin.com/197. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about 5 signs that it's time for you to branch out with your own business. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart Centered Business Podcast. Now, first, I want to say, before we talk about the signs that it might be time to start your own business, the motivating factor of wanting to run away from something isn't always enough. So, for example, a lot of people would say, like, if you're peeved off with your job and you don't love your boss, then it's a sign that you should branch out with your own business. And I actually think that's often not enough for sustainability. So, running away from something and not having something you're running towards can be a good motivator to start you off, but it doesn't necessarily help you keep that momentum and sustain what it takes to really grow a thriving business. However, if you are peeved with your boss, you are on maternity leave, you don't want to go back to work, you've got financial issues, you don't want to be lining the pockets of someone else with your efforts, or any other reason for wanting to start your own business right now, that's a great motivator to get you started, but we want to make sure we're also tapping into what's going to sustain you long term. So here are 5 signs that it might be time for you to branch out with your own business. Sign number 1, you have an epic vision. Now, I know that this was definitely one of the big things for me. My epic vision when I first started my business was being able to make enough money to live an amazing life of luxury and have a giant beach house and travel a lot, and also run a not-for-profit that I had a very specific vision about at that particular point in time. That vision isn't necessarily the same anymore, and my desires and goals and what my vision is has changed a little. Not a lot, but it has changed a little. But that epic vision really motivated me even when I was first starting out in my business, and it allowed me to really tap into the bigger goals of wanting to start a business. I didn't want to just start a business and make the same salary I was making in my day job, which was a very handsome 6-figure salary at the time. And so I didn't want to just replace that income. I wanted to have $1 million business and a multi-million-dollar a year business from when I first started my business. And part of the reason was that big epic vision that I had. I had a vision of wanting to change lives and influence people and really help those who wouldn't otherwise get help and support that they need. And I was sick of relying on the government to do the right thing, to be 100% honest with you. So I was like, I'm just going to do it myself. And young Tash had political aspirations, and business starting Tash had already decided politics was not the way that I was going to enact the change that I wanted to enact. And I started to see entrepreneurship as a pathway for me to actually create that change. And so that is what really drove me to get my business off the ground. And it drove me in those times where I was like, well, maybe I could just take my foot off the accelerator and just be happy with, $75,000 a year. And then I'd be like, no, my big vision is epic. And I want to make sure that I stay aligned with that vision. So number 1, epic vision. Number 2, transferable skills and knowledge. And this one is really interesting because a lot of people assume that the skills and knowledge that they've developed through their career or through their job or through university or whatever they've been doing up until this point, are kind of going to be thrown away in order for them to be able to start a business because it's completely different or it's in a completely different space or those sorts of things. But if you actually sit down and do an assessment of the transferable skills and knowledge that you have, chances are there's a lot more that you have to bring to the table than you're giving yourself credit for. So something that I did before I started my business was I did Marcus Buckingham's Strengths Finder. And I also did like a transferable skills assessment that I worked in a consulting firm. We had a recruitment wing, and the recruitment wing actually had a transferable skills assessment. So I went and did that. And I looked at some of the skills that I wanted to develop and some of the skills that I already had. And I could see that I actually did have a lot to offer already. Now, granted, I was working in business consulting at the time and I was moving into business coaching and consulting. It wasn't a big jump for me. But a lot of people think that the skills that they have actually aren't necessarily critical to what they're doing. But think about the transferable ones. Like, are you someone who's really good at following through on projects? Or you're really good at generating lots of different ideas. You'll find creative solutions to things. You are tenacious. You're great with customers. You have really strong empathy. All of these things will serve you in your business when you start it up. And so if you've got a really good understanding of what your transferable skills are and you are really looking at them through the lens of, oh my gosh, like I could do all of these things, I'm really good at all of these things, then that usually says that you are ready to branch out and have your own business. So have a look through your experiences, your personal history, your professional history, and look at all of those strengths that you bring to the table. And look at it through this lens of it doesn't have to necessarily be applied in exactly the same way. So, for example, customer service skills that were normally used in retail can absolutely transfer into the online space. You just need to learn the platforms and the ways that you get to have those sales conversations and those customer service conversations. And it's done quite differently, but the same principles apply. And if you already have those skills, you already have that knowledge, that's going to really hold you in good stead for starting your own business online. Number 3 is a nagging and consistent idea. And this definitely was one for me. For a long time, I denied the nagging, consistent idea, you should have your own business, Tash, because I had some personal family of origin stories around what it means to have your own business and how unreliable the income is and how unreliable you become and all of those sorts of things. But I did have this really nagging, consistent idea of having my own business. And once I got into a more coaching model when I was working in the consulting world, and I saw like what coaching brought into the consulting package, then I really did start to like have this nagging idea of you should be doing this on your own, coming through over and over and over again. And actually, when I first started my business, I thought I'd be a career coach because I thought that's where I would have the best impact and it would be the easiest transition for me because I'd done quite a lot of career coaching in my corporate jobs, and that was something I really loved doing. But I was very open to what my business was going to look like, thankfully, because after working with 3 career coaching clients, and I did them for free. I did target market research interviews with them, and then I did a free session in return. After just 3 clients, I was like, I left the corporate world for a reason. I don't want to have these conversations about your numpty mansplaining boss. I really don't. I don't want to help you thrive in that environment. I want to help you escape that environment. And so that's where I transitioned into working with entrepreneurs because I really could see that was what I was more passionate about, was bringing people into this beautiful world because you don't have to ask for permission from anyone and you get to be your own boss and you get to create an environment that actually you will thrive in. And that's a really beautiful thing for me. So, and also you get to reap the rewards of your own work as well, which is definitely a big one. So if you've got this nagging, consistent idea, even if you're not 100% clear on what the business would be, but you've had this nagging, consistent idea, oh, I really should start my own business. Oh, I really could do this myself. Then pay attention to that. That's usually a good sign that it might be time for you to at least dabble, at least have a little play. Number 4 is people keep telling you to turn something into a business. Now, I would have had 100 different things that people told me I should turn into a business. Oh my gosh, you should make novelty cakes as a business. Oh my gosh, you should do career advice as a business. Oh my gosh, you should be a coach as a business. Oh my gosh, you should, right, netball coach. You should this, you should that, like all of these things. You should sell crochet blankets because I love crochet and I'm into arts and crafts. Oh my gosh, you should sell this stuff. Everyone was saying you should do this as a business. Now, I wouldn't necessarily pay attention to what people should tell you should have a business in. But if a lot of people are telling you you should have a business in something or another, listen to the you should have a business part of it. Because often that's just like taps on the shoulder, like, hey, have you thought about having your own business? Now the specifics, a lot of people won't understand what you actually end up going into doing. So not one of the people, when I actually started my business and decided to work in online business and marketing and entrepreneurship, not one of the people who told me I should have a business went, that's exactly the business I thought you should have. They were all like, what do you mean? I don't understand. Selling online? What? Social media? No, isn't that just where you share photos of your food? Like, people weren't necessarily across what it was that I was going to do, but they all were like, I knew you were going to start a business. They definitely saw that coming. So if people keep telling you you should have a business, maybe it's time. And then number 5, and this is a bit of a juicy one, is that you've already taken action. So do you hoard URL addresses? Have you already set up like a faux website, but you've never sent it live? Do you own a bunch of different Facebook pages, or you've got a bunch of things that you've been playing with and dabbling with in the background? Chances are your entrepreneurial brain is already fast at work. And if that's a sign, you are definitely ready to start going deeper and start your own business. Now, I've given you 5 signs that it's time to branch out with your own business, but I see a lot of people when they first start a business get all wrapped up in comparing their beginning with someone else's middle or end point, someone else's mature business model. And it can be very easy to believe that the pathway from startup to there is not a treacherous or rocky one, and that it's just simply you go straight into working in this space. Yes, when you come behind people who have already gone before you and they've already paved the way, there are some things that you can leapfrog. For example, things that I did you would never have to do when you started a business, because back when I started my business, we didn't have prolific numbers of Facebook groups. We didn't have Zoom. Zoom didn't exist. We didn't have even like opportunities to run webinars without using like $200, $300 a month platforms. We didn't have platforms like Kartra that are like all in one. We had to tie a bunch of different technology platforms together. You don't have to do all that stuff. You get to make the leapfrog. But there are certain parts of the startup journey that you really want to nail effectively so that you can get to profitability quickly and you can get to the point where you know you've proven this is a sustainable business model as quickly and easily as possible. So if that is something you would like some help with, I have a free resource for you. It's called Fast Track Your Startup. It's available if you go over to the show notes at tashcorbin.com/197. It's completely free. It takes about an hour and a bit to go through it, and it will help you make sure that you understand what the foundations are of starting an online business and that you are plotting yourself a pathway to quick profitability and making sure you've created that proof of concept as quickly as possible when you start that business as well. So go and check it out. The show notes are tashcorbin.com/197. And as always, I'd love to hear if you've had any ahas or questions as a result of listening to this podcast episode. Come on over to the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs Facebook group. Even if you don't have a business yet, you're allowed to be calling yourself an entrepreneur because you totally are one. And come along to the group and use the hashtag podcastaha. Let me know you've been listening to episode number 197 and post any questions or comments or light bulb moments that you've had from today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me here at the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. And until next time, fabulous entrepreneur, I cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.